Before we get into the video, shout out to our sponsors Subside clothing brand. Subside is a new, up-and-coming clothing brand established in Bristol that is looking to add something different with their clean designs that celebrate their roots. You can find the link to all their social medias in the description of this video. From the Terrace Podcast and Subside clothing brand, it's a match made in heaven. Support the boys, support the grind, shop Subside. Hello and welcome back to the From the Terrace podcast and to another edition of Champ Talk. I myself am joined by Mr. Regan Valet as always, and we are here to talk everything Championship. Now, we've already done a quick episode in the week doing our sort of final run-in predictions. Obviously, the last games before the international break were a couple of weeks ago, so we're not going to cover them. Instead, we're going to do a very short episode in which we're going to predict for Good Friday and the Saturday fixtures before we have a new Easter special where we talk about the Easter Monday games. And it's a period of the year that all football fans love. It's a shame we can't be in stadiums. It's like the summer version of the Christmas period, isn't it? The Easter weekend. You've got football Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday. Everyone loves it. And anyway, Regan, seeing as we're going straight into predictions, we need an update on scores before we do these ones. What are the scores looking like from the last couple of weeks?
Well, thank God, when we last did it, you didn't ask for the scores for the week that we predicted beforehand, because that was, if I quickly check here, that was the worst week we had combined since week 24, and this is the 39th week. So I think it just puts into perspective just how bad we really were.
It's nice to see that it's better. It's nice to...
Yeah, obviously, yeah, a bit of consistency now and again wouldn't go amiss. But oh well, that's what you tune in and listen for. But yeah, like you said, I'll keep tabs of the scores. And at the moment, it's 185 to the Chipman himself, and 198 for I don't really have a nickname for me.
No, for the guy out of Toy Story. What's his name? What's the... if you audio listeners, Regan has just turned off his camera. He's embarrassed. He's going to go find some toys to bully. Oh God, I forget his name. So it won't catch on.
It's Sid. We know it's Sid.
There it is, Sid. So we've got Sid in the Chipman's prediction. So what was it again, Regan? Was it 185 to
198? If you must know.
Yeah, so 13 points between it. I've closed the gap overall. And we're looking in good shape going into the final run-in. Who knows? Could Bill be the equivalent of a Middlesbrough and make a late dash for the playoffs? You never know. Anyway, Regan, speaking of Middlesbrough, they had the first game of these predictions. The first game is Bournemouth versus Borough, a big one in the top 6 race. How do you see this one go?
I'm not sure if I want to partake in this video after that absolute insult that I've just sustained there.
Character assassination, yeah.
I'm going to do my best nonetheless, because basically for half these teams, it could just be a clean slate. Teams that went into the international break bad can come out good, and it could be vice versa. But just because, even though they did get hammered by Southampton before the international break in the cup, I'm going to say Bournemouth, because I like to see a bit of rivalry in that top 6 race, and I think Bournemouth are pretty good, especially because they beat Swansea. That was like a month ago, but still, they have quality there.
Yeah, I think Bournemouth know that now it's sort of like a clean slate, like you said, final few games, and it's now they're competing with the likes of Cardiff and Borough to some extent. They've got to just start winning games now. Clean slate, let's just see it as sort of a mini league to go to the end of the season. And I think Bournemouth obviously have got a strong enough side, so I'm going to join you on Bournemouth as well. A bit of a dead rubber, the next one. You do start to get into that territory at this end of the season. It's Bristol City versus Stoke at Ashton Gate. 2 teams that are going to be sort of in the mindset of preparing for the next season, aren't they?
Yeah, when we talk about teams that needed the international break, Bristol City were definitely one of them, because when Nigel Pearson first took over, they started getting a few... Then they lost to Rotherham, and quite frankly, they deserved to lose to Rotherham, to be quite honest. However, I tend to not back Stoke. Unfortunately, I tend to not usually back Stoke. And because Nigel Pearson is there and it's Ashton Gate, it's a bit of a toss of a coin, because Bristol City could come out looking even worse than they did going into the international break. But I'm going to back them nonetheless.
I'm going to give Bristol City. Very boring. Just not. I just you know what Stoke really are like. They had that spell where I sort of gained some trust in them again, but for the most part, since maybe Christmas, just not been good enough, really, have they? And it's been really poor from Stoke. I mean, Bristol City haven't been particularly amazing either. I don't know. I just fancy Bristol City because they're at home. Is that a boring way to put it? But yeah, I fancy City. I'll go for Bristol City win in that game. Next one, Cardiff, Nottingham Forest. Forest obviously before the international break, coming from behind the draw of Brentford. Cardiff still in the mix for the playoffs. They like Bournemouth and know, but they're in a sort of a mini league for it now. They got to get wins, haven't they? And do you see them getting it? It's two sort of championship heavyweights in the Mick McCarthy and Chris Hughton up against each other.
Yep, just before I go into it, I'd like to say that you said that Stoke's form kind of trailed off since Christmas, and I think we know what came around Christmas time for Stoke that may have altered their season. But I'm not going to say who it is because I think you should know who it is by now. But on to the more important games and not someone who's that's irrelevant at the moment. Swansea did lose to Cardiff, and I don't know why I'm deliberating. I say every week I do not like Chris Hughton, Nottingham Forest. I think he hasn't done a good job in the slightest, and I really like Cardiff for Mick McCarthy, and I really hope they get that top 6 place. So there's a good way to start. Cardiff.
Yeah, it does seem like a poor fit, Hughton and Forest, but we'll wait and see because a summer transfer window with the hope of fans returning back to stadiums, maybe clubs just willing to spend a little bit more money again. Hughton could possibly turn it around. So I'm going to reserve myself from judgment, although you're right, he hasn't done brilliantly so far. Contrastingly, Mick McCarthy, I guess, has showed that you can do it without your own players and has taken Cardiff and pushed them out to the playoffs. Doug said, don't know why I'm deliberating. It's going to be Cardiff. Cardiff win that game for me. The next one is Derby and Luton, two teams who showed promise at parts of the season, but also showed spells of ill form. Both particularly on the general trend of late have been poor. I know Luton have got a couple of good wins, but the general consensus has been poor recently. When Derby was starting to look good, Luton were starting to look like they could be a real proper strong mid-table side. How do we see this one going, Regan? Is it one that you think Luton have probably had a couple of the better results more recently, so you go for Luton? Or do Derby just have the better side? And
well, it's a case of both things because Derby have a better side, but Luton have the better run of form. So it's just of who is going to win on the day. And to be honest, I think that neither of them will, because I think Derby's a very sit back, let you attack, and maybe grab a goal if we want. And Luton are a bit of, we'll try and score, but we don't usually tend to score quite a bit. And I think those two suit each other quite well. So I think they're just going to cancel each other out and be a draw.
I am tempted to go for a 1-0 Luton win in this because they are that's their favourite away scoreline. They like a 1-0 win. And also obviously Derby are a low scoring side, so it seems like it's a good fit for the game. But I feel like Wayne Rooney has had time to deal with the injuries they've had. A couple of weeks international break. Can't imagine too many Derby players have gone away on international duty. I think that Wayne Rooney would have drilled into them, and I expect a sort of redemption or sort of reactive performance. So I'm actually going to go for Derby to win that game, although I do understand the consensus of a draw. Millwall Rotherham is next one, Regan, and this is the beginning of Rotherham's terrible run of fixtures in terms of how many they have. They have got some kind ones in terms of personnel. They can win at Millwall, can't they? They have got a chance.
Yep, definitely. What I'm going to say may spoil or may go against what one of us said in our prediction video about who's going to finish at the bottom 3. But I think that Rotherham are capable of scoring quite a few goals. And we saw with Millwall a few weeks ago against QPR, if they're prone to, they can score all they want. But as soon as they let one in, they're more prone to collapsing, which is weird for me to say about Millwall. And because of that, and I know that the fire is under Rotherham, and I know they want to get off to the best start possible, because I believe the game after this, maybe Wycombe, I think that might be right. I think that Wycombe after this, I think they want to put 2 really good games under the belt to start off with. And I'm going to back Rotherham.
I'm going to back Rotherham as well. It's a Rotherham resurgence. I've predicted them to stay up at the end of the season. I know Regan didn't quite have the same ambitions for him, but I know Regan does also think there is a chance of it. It feels like their fixture list is the thing that's going to play against them, but they should be fresh-legged after international break, going against a Millwall side who I think now have little to play for. I think Rotherham are going to do them. I think they'll beat them. I'm going to go for a Rotherham win too. Next one, Preston versus Norwich. Now, this would have been Alex Neil playing against his old club, but obviously he was sacked, let go of his duties. So will Preston get some sort of bounce, Regan? Or is it... It's silly, isn't it? Norwich are winning this, aren't they?
Yeah, when you're down in the dumps, you don't have a manager. The Canaries or doesn't really sound intimidating. The
Canaries aren't they're not quite birds of prey, are they?
No, but they're out to get them, and they're gonna feast on the weak Preston.
The carcass of Preston. Yeah, I agree. To be honest, it was going to be a Norwich win. The Canaries feast on the carcass of Preston. That's a little match report headline for you. I'm sure the BBC will be mopping that one up. The next one is QPR versus Coventry at Loftus Road. Little talk, Regan, in the last 24 hours after England's exit from the Under-21 European Championships. Mark Warburton touted with the next England Under-21 job. Who knows? They have got the task of Coventry on Friday. Who's going to win that one?
I didn't even know that England Under-21s are really playing, to be quite honest. But, oh well. Two teams that aren't really inspiring at the moment, must be said. But I am going to go for QPR because Coventry aren't at St Andrews, and that's the only time I really back them.
Yeah, you do say that. You do say you back Coventry at St Andrews. You know what? I'm actually going to go Coventry just because I think fighting for their lives. I know QPR have had the resurgence. I think they could have potential of having a little period of where like it's a bit of a honeymoon period. They're gonna stay up. They're not going to get promoted. So what is there to play for? Warburton sides have done that in the past and have sort of tailored off at points when it looks a bit comfortable. So I'm going to go for Coventry. I think Mark Robbins will have them up, and I think win a couple more games and Coventry will be safe. So they'll be looking to do that as early as possible. Next one, Watford, Sheffield Wednesday. Darren Moore's finally had some time to drill his plans into the players. Is he going to keep them up, Regan? Are they going to win this game?
Definitely possible because Watford are, well, up until recently, they were prone to a slip-up. And Sheffield Wednesday did beat Barnsley, which was heartbreaking for majority of the Championship fans out there. So by all means, why not Sheffield Wednesday? But that doesn't mean I'm going to go for them because Watford are brilliant. So I am going to go for Watford.
Oh, back Watford, haven't you? I think that's the thing. Like you go with Sheffield Wednesday. Like yes, Darren Moore put his plans into them, but they just they've had quite a few chances now, haven't they? They've had these chances and they've still not really made the most of any of them. They've had Monk, they've had Pulis. Are they just maybe a bad team? And I think that's the case. So we'll go for a Watford win too. And like we said, we think we're going to they will be the second team to go up this season. Wycombe versus Blackburn. Dead rubber if I've ever seen it. Wycombe, you're going to come bottom. Blackburn, you're not achieving anything, but you've not achieved any on any of the promise that we thought there would be. Boring ones are cool, Regan, but we've got to do it for the predictions. How do we see it going?
I think this international break may have been good for Blackburn because they were drying up on their goals. They weren't really finding that team spirit that they had at the beginning of the season. And I'm not going to say that they're going to make a playoff push, etc. I just think they're going to end the season better than what they have been recently from Christmas till now. And what a better way to start than against Wycombe? So I'm going to go Blackburn.
I'm going to go for Blackburn too. Just you've said it all there. It just makes sense, doesn't it? Got a great analysis there, and I have the cheek to slag off Sky Punditry. 5:30 kickoff on the Good Friday. Barnsley versus Reading, a big one in the fight for top six. Two of the underdog stories of the season. We've said in our final running video who we fancy the most. Is that how this game's going to end, though, Regan?
I've had time to think about this, and I am quite scared because this can either go amazing way that Barnsley, that Sheffield Wednesday game is just a slip up, international break is done, and they're back up to winning ways again. But alternatively, it could be the momentum's just all gone, and now they're back to last season Oh,
It is
Jesus.
worrying. It is worrying. It does seem like it's a different side, and that won't happen. But there is the possibility that they could just have all the life sucked out of them and return to being a team who's, I mean, substandard in the Championship. It's a worry that they could have all their form sucked out of them, couldn't they?
Yeah, very true. If to be honest, I think the most likely result here is more than likely going to be a draw, if anything. But I think just more out of hope and just excitement about what's to come. I'm going to say Barnsley are going to win.
Yeah, you tell you what, I think that Reading are a team who struggle when you press them, and they're good football inside. They pressed Brentford, I remember, in the game when we won 3-1 in the end. But they were a very good team. But ultimately, when Brentford started applying the pressure, Reading didn't deal with it particularly well. Barnsley put pressure on you from the first minute, and I think that's what's going to win the game. And obviously, Reading have probably the more talented naturally players. You've got Elise Jaira, Lucas Zhao. You've got Rimanotta in midfield. But I think I am going to just take the risky one. I'm going to go with the form. I'm going to go with the team who we want to see in the playoffs, and I'm going to go for Barnsley. Penultimate game, Regan, Birmingham versus Swansea. These are two big games now, this and the next one that I'm going to mention, because this is the time to show up now. Final run-in. This is it now. You can't afford any more slip-ups. The two teams who have been slipping up the most. Obviously, we'll talk about Brentford afterwards, but first, Regan, Swansea at Birmingham, are they going to get the 3 points?
Another tough one to call, because obviously Swansea had a terrible, terrible run into international break.
Mm-hmm.
And Birmingham, obviously, they lost to Watford. But Lee Bowyer had a lot more time with his players. And it's just, can he get them back to how they can play Birmingham, because they can be very good at times. I could genuinely, I don't know why, I can't see Swansea win this game. I'm not sure what it is. I know it's not Karanka, so there is a 1-0 in my head, but I think that's just because it's a Karanka. I'm actually going to go for a draw.
Draw. I'm going to go for a Swansea win. They've just got better quality, and I think that the 2 weeks off would have done them some good, and maybe they'll get back to some of their better performances. But you're right, though. It's not a clear-cut one. We were saying for ages how just every week we're going Swansea win, Swansea win, Swansea win. It's not like that anymore. Birmingham are playing for their lives. They've got a new manager who's had 2 weeks with them now. Yeah, it's a tough one to call, like I said, but I think I'm just going to edge Swansea on the quality. And finally, unfortunately, we have to have a Saturday game, although we do love the Good Friday ones. Early kick-off on Saturday is Huddersfield Town versus Brentford. Are Brentford going to slip up as well, Regan, in your thoughts, or no?
Well, it's weird to say that if I was to go for the form on this, I'd be backing Huddersfield, which is a very weird thing to say, even though out of the 4 games that they're undefeated, 3 of them have been draws. But I don't usually trust Huddersfield's defensive capabilities in the best of times. And when you come up against the league's top scorer and a team that's literally getting back to full fitness, almost fully fit now, this international break's probably, if I had to say personally, a team that's probably going to benefit the most from this international break is probably going to be Brentford. And I think that similar to coming up against Wycombe, Huddersfield, quite vulnerable at the back, and against a free-flowing and free-scoring team, I think Brentford will make it quite easy. So I'm going to say the Bees.
Well, I mean, there was all the talk about, I mean, the thing, you got Pontus Jansson, who's obviously back, and he just came back before the international break. Now he's going to have 2 weeks to train. He should be fully fit now on his return. Norgard obviously may have a bit of tired legs, as was Mathias Jensen, because he's been away on international duty as well, Mads Bech Sorensen. So it wouldn't surprise me to see a couple of changes in the team just for this game. But for the most part, the international break, you're right, it's probably done Brentford the best. And now they can focus on that final 9 run-in like they did last season, where they did so well in that final run-in and caught up a bigger points gap than there is at the moment on Watford to West Brom. So, yeah, it's a good one. I'll be interested to see whether Rico Henry and Josh Da Silva are back. They were promised to be back. Josh Silva was promised to be back after the international break. No one's really heard too much about him, but it was only a hip injury, so I guess you're not going to see too much of the training pictures. You never know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Rico Henry, I think, still a couple of weeks away. But Brentford's team starting to get back to some sort of fitness. Unfortunately, it feels like they may have left it too late. In terms of this game, they'll win. I think Brentford have got this one in the bag. I think a revitalised, fit Brentford side might might demolish Huddersfield because they've got quite a weak underbelly. I think I'm going to go for a comfortable Brentford win. Anyway, Regan, that is the predictions over and done with, and that is this episode. Obviously, it was a short one this week. We'll be back on Easter Sunday, me and Regan, with the predictions ahead of the Monday games, as well as reviewing these Good Friday matches. Come and join us, Easter egg in hand. You never know, have 1, 2 or 3. Treat yourself, depends however you are. You like your sugar, don't you, Regan? He likes a Jaffa cake. I reckon Regan loves Easter. I reckon he does. He definitely
Did
loves
you know my favourite chocolate is actually a cream egg? So this is my favourite time of year.
It's the most wonderful time. Regan gets the Christmas songs going at Easter. He loves it. Absolutely loves it. Cream egg for me, very sugary. I would pass to 1 or 2, but I wouldn't go above that. I couldn't really have one of those full things of 6 that they have. But anyway, we're here to talk football on Sunday. Join us with an Easter egg. We'll be back for another episode of Champ Talk. If you did enjoy this one, remember to like the video, subscribe to the From the Terrace podcast YouTube channel, leave us a rating on iTunes, follow us on Spotify, and me and Regan will see you in the next Champ Talk.